With the 15th pick and with the 26th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Dwayne Haskins, Montez Sweat.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report Live. So, let me give you a little bit of background information on what has transpired and how I've gotten to the conclusion that I've gotten to. And first, let me tell all of you out there, RELAX, relax, okay? Breathe. Calm down. I can't tell you how many fans out there that are irate because Kevin O'Connell isn't back. Relax, okay? And a lot of the staff isn't back. Most of the staff isn't intact, and he's bringing a lot of his guys in. Keyword there, his guys, okay? His. It's his team. It's his direction. And I've told you this before. The NFL is a good old boys league. Translation, coaches hire their friends. They hire guys that they trust. It's no different here, but we'll get to that in a second. Let me tell you what my thought process was last night. So I was actually going to do a video on Kevin O'Connell and why he hasn't been named the Redskins offensive coordinator yet. Look, we heard about Ron Rivera talking about the interview process during his introductory presser and how he said, I'm just beginning the process. Look, spare me, all right? Bottom line is, it doesn't take long. The Giants have already interviewed 5 candidates and now have hired their next head coach already, okay? It doesn't take long to interview someone. And O'Connell is probably, or was, somewhere close to the building. If he wasn't in the building, he wasn't that far away from it. So if he really wanted to talk to Kevin O'Connell, he could have easily set something up, talked to him, and decided if he wanted him back, and it needed to be mutual. And I was going to do a video last night. And I said, you know what? I haven't been to the gym in a couple of days. I need to go. So I said, you know what? I'll do a video when I come back. And initially, I wanted to do a live video. But I said, I don't think a live video is going to be appropriate because of the timing. All of my East Coast fans and viewers are going to be sleeping or tired or it's late. They got to go to work tomorrow. And so I said, you know what? I'll just do a local video, upload it. They'll see it in the morning. And then when I got back from the gym, it was late. And I said, you know what? I don't feel like doing a video. I'll just do one tomorrow. I said, if the Redskins hire someone else or O'Connell moves on, then that video won't be relevant. And I'll just do another video about the guy that gets hired. And I'll tell this story. Well, I just told the story. So the video that I was going to do last night was pretty much saying, hey, guess what? Have you ever thought about this? And, you know, as fans, a lot of times we just jump to conclusions. We don't actually, you know, take a second to kind of analyze everything from all angles. We just jump to the easiest narrative. And, you know, that's lazy. And I don't like lazy narratives. I don't like lazy takes. And so, you know, I said, you know, why hasn't O'Connell been named offensive coordinator? You know, there are only probably 1, 2, maybe 3 reasons at the most. And I said, there's one that Ron Rivera thinks he can find better or isn't that enamored with Kevin O'Connell. That's number 1. Number 2, maybe Kevin O'Connell is looking around and saying, hey, none of the guys that I was here with over the last 3 years is here. I don't know this guy and I don't know what his vision is for this organization, but I can tell you this much. I know what this organization has been. I'm not really comfortable being here without other guys that I'm comfortable with being here. And I got friends that are about to get a job. Maybe I should wait before I lock in to being the Redskins offensive coordinator. Maybe my guy. And then I said, well, let's see who's available to get a job that may interest a guy like Kevin O'Connell. And I looked around and I said, well, let's try to find some overlapping. Let's try to find somewhere where there's a common denominator. And I went through Kevin O'Connell's work log and I looked at him as a draft pick in the 3rd round of the, 07, 08 draft. And I looked at all of his, different stops as a quality control offensive assistant and quarterbacks coach and this, that, and the third. And I said, he overlaps with a guy that is potentially going to be a head coach. I think he's going to be the Cleveland Browns' next head coach. I've said this numerous times. And with all the hires that have taken place over the last 48 hours, there aren't many openings left. I think it's a foregone conclusion that Josh McDaniels is going to end up in Cleveland. He's already made it publicly known he'd love to coach Baker Mayfield. Well, you know who would love to coach under Josh McDaniels? Kevin O'Connell. He was the quarterback there while Josh McDaniels was the offensive coordinator. It makes sense. And at that time, Josh McDaniels was the quarterback's coach, so he knows him very intimately. So I said, you know what? That makes a ton of sense. And generally, when an offense is really good, and we know Josh McDaniels has the potential to have an explosive offense. He even had it in Denver with Jay Cutler that first year before he went apeshit and started getting rid of everybody. He had an explosive offense then. He can coach up offense. And if the offense in Cleveland is successful, guess who's going to get a lot of credit? Kevin O'Connell. A lot of people already think he's very smart, probably think that this guy's head coaching material in the near future. So even if he's not doing anything, because generally when an offensive guy gets the head coaching position, they want to call the plays. They want to be in control. They don't want to relinquish that to somebody else. So I'm thinking that Josh McDaniels is probably going to get that Cleveland job. And Kevin O'Connell's like, yo, bro, can I come join you? He's like, sure, come on, be my offensive coordinator. Like, I'm still going to call the plays, but you'll get all the credit and you'll get a job. And he's like, sounds good to me. So he was waiting for the opportunity to see if his guy and Josh McDaniels landed a job. And if he in fact did, and I think he's going to, I think that's where he wants to go. And look, KOC asked the Redskins for permission to interview with other teams. It's not like he was chomping at the bit to come back and coach Dwayne Haskins. So a lot of you jumped, and I was going to make a video about that last night. So a lot of you jumped to the conclusion that automatically Ron Rivera doesn't want Kevin O'Connell. Oh my God, what is he doing? He's messing up the continuity. Now Dwayne's going to have to learn another offense. Pipe down. What if Kevin O'Connell didn't want to be here? Did you ever think about that for a second? Maybe there's an opportunity out there that's much more attractive to him than coming back here. Look at it this way. Let's say that you get a job working under one of your homeboys. All right, so let's say your homeboy gets a job and he's the supervisor and he hires you and 3 of your other buddies under him, and you guys are working for 3 years and you're having a good time and everything's going well, and you're thinking to yourself, man, this is going so well, I may get a promotion here shortly. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, your guy gets fired. The guy that hired you gets fired, and they bring somebody else in. And also, all the other guys you were working with that were your homeboys, they're gone too. You're left. Everybody else is gone. They bring in a new guy, and he sits down with you, and he says, hey, this is my vision for the team. What do you think? And you say, hey, that's cool. It's nice, but I'm not really comfortable with everything that's going on here. And I got another homeboy that may be getting a job, and I know him, and I know what he's all about. Let me get back to you on that. That's kind of how this situation is. You get a job, everyone's cool, everything's going well, then everybody's gone. You look up, there's a new guy in, he's got a vision for the way he wants things to go. You're like, I don't really know if I'm feeling that. And you just came out of a situation where you had a coach telling you what you should and shouldn't do, plays that you should and shouldn't call. Like, you don't want to go through that again. So here's all I'm saying. This isn't just on Ron Rivera. And even if Ron said, nope, I don't want Kevin O'Connell, he has every right to do that, okay? You guys have to come off of this whole mentality of, man, we had all these guys here that we loved and we want to keep them. We were 3-13 last season, okay? Everybody should be at risk to be gone. No one should be safe. We were 3-13. I don't give a damn what position you coached. I don't give a damn what title you held in the organization. If you were a part of this organization last season and the years before it, because we haven't made the playoffs in 3 years, and we've been horrible, really, all 3 years, okay? We haven't been good since 2016 when we went 8-7-1, all right? 7-9 isn't good. Spare me. So if anybody has been here, and I don't give a damn what position you were coaching and how well guys developed under you, you know how good I felt about our defensive line coach. I told you, this is a guy that all the players loved. Jonathan Allen said it's the best coach he's ever had. He loved Jim Tom. Matt Ioannidis says all the credit for my development in this league goes to Jim Tom. They loved him. Guess what? Jim Tom's the hell out of here, and I could care less. You know why? Because at the end of the day, Jim Tom was a part of an organization and a coaching staff that went 3-13. All right? You know what else Jim Tom was great at? Motivating guys and getting them to play at a high level. You know what else? We looked around and said, why aren't we getting more pressure? Why aren't we getting more sacks from the guys on the outside? Go to the outside linebackers coach. All the coaches, you go all the way down the list. A lot of you were bent out. Ike Hilliard isn't coming back. Hey, look, man. Ike Hilliard was cool, man. And I love the development of the young boys at the receiver position. Steven Sims, Kelvin Harmon, Terry McLaurin. That's great. Wasn't he here for Josh Doxson, too? What happened to him? What about Ryan Grant? What about those guys? Like, let's not have selective memory. If you were here for 3-13, the shit didn't work, you need to be gone if the new guy comes in and determines that you need to be gone. End of discussion. And so Kevin O'Connell, yeah, it would have been nice if he would have come back. I like some of the things Kevin did. There are also some things I didn't like that Kevin did. And we really don't know fully if it was Kevin or if it was old man Callahan. We don't really know where to draw that line in the sand and determine whether it was him or Callahan forcing him to do this or forcing him to do that. At the end of the day, it may not even be Ron Rivera's choice. It might have been Kevin O'Connell the entire time saying, you know what? I want out of this shit. This whole thing, this whole organization has been cursed since I got here. All right. Now, I was willing to make the best of the situation because I felt like there was something in it for me at the very end. And maybe he felt slighted that he didn't get an interview for the head coaching position. Maybe he felt like, you know what? I'll stick around. If Josh doesn't get a job, I'll stay here in Washington as the offensive coordinator. But in his mind, he's probably thinking, if I get out of here and I go be a coordinator somewhere else for a year or two under a guy that I trust. Similarly, I'll give you a great example. All right. Matt LaFleur. He left here. He went with Sean McVay. He was there for a year, was Matt LaFleur. All right. 1 year in Los Angeles with the Chargers. He gets the offensive coordinator job in Tennessee, and then he gets hired in Green Bay. 1 year under McVay. That was it. And then he got the offensive coordinator job. And remember, he was like pseudo offensive coordinator in Los Angeles. Sean McVay was calling all the plays. He didn't do any goddamn thing. So he got a real offensive coordinator job the next year in Tennessee with Marcus Mariota. They went 9-7. All right. And guess what he did? Parlayed that into a head coaching job. You think Kevin O'Connell isn't seeing things like that transpire and saying to himself, why can't I do that? Zach Taylor did the same thing. He was the quarterback's coach in Los Angeles for 1 year. And he gets the Cincinnati Bengals job. He's like, why can't I go somewhere, be there for a year, have an explosive offense? I may have something to do with it. I may not, but everyone will give me credit for it. Everyone already thinks I'm smart, and I'll get that job, and I'll get a job next year. It probably won't happen here, though. Probably won't happen here. So why not go somewhere else and have an opportunity? Look, I'm not mad at Kevin O'Connell. I'm not mad at Ron Rivera. I could really honestly care less about who he decides to get rid of. And I know a lot of you also complaining, oh my God, he's turning this into the Washington Panthers. Who gives a shit? Last time I checked, Sean McDermott went to Buffalo and took a bunch of Carolina guys with him. And look, excuse me if I don't have this correct, but the last 2 out of 3 years, the Buffalo Bills have been in the playoffs. Have we been in the playoffs the last 2 out of 3 years? I'm just asking for a friend. Lou in Landover. I'm asking for him. Have we been in the playoffs the last 2 out of 3 years? Seems like something's working in Buffalo. So before all of you guys out there and gals get pissed off about him bringing a bunch of guys in here that he's worked with in the past, number one, it's a good old boys club. We know this to be a fact. All right. A guy gets hired. He's bringing in all of his cronies. All right. It's what goes down in this league. So don't act surprised. Number two, if I'm going to take a job and I'm going to try to change the culture, I'm going to bring in guys that I trust. People that I know believe in the same principles as me. You know how I know that? Because I coached with these guys before. They instilled the culture that I set before. If they've done it once, they can do it again. So I'll bring them with me. All right. Number 3. All right. Nobody here knows what winning looks like. And this is the thing that really pisses me off about Redskins fans, is because we swear we know what. I told you guys a week ago, who the hell actually knows what Eric Schaefer does other than contracts? I don't know what the hell why would you be upset about Eric Schaefer being gone? We don't even know what he does other than contracts. I told you, Eric makes the numbers dance. Outside of him making the numbers dance, numbers, dance. Other than that, what the hell does Eric Schaefer do? I don't know. I never met the guy, okay? So I don't know what he's doing back there. I don't know what Alex Santos is doing and how good of a job he's doing. I know what his title says. I know what he's supposed to be doing, but do we actually know how good of a job Alex Santos is doing? No, we don't. So when Ron Rivera comes in and decides he has guys that he trusts, that he thinks can do a great job, we don't know if it's going to be better or not, but he knows the caliber of work they're capable of, and he decides to bring them in. We were 3-13 last year. You shouldn't be bent out of shape for anybody being ousted off of this roster, off of this coaching staff, or out of this organization. We stink. We have stunk. And until change is made, we will continue to stink. So right now, as far as I'm concerned, if you want Ron Rivera to have full autonomy, full control, which is what we've all been bitching and complaining about all these years. Oh my God, Daniel Snyder's too involved, this, that, and the third. Well, he's getting all of his guys in here so he can clean house and clean some shit up. You should be ecstatic, all right? The minute he's told he can't do something, that's when you should be worried. The minute he's told you can't do that, then you should be worried, because that means he doesn't have the kind of power that we were told that he has. Right now, everything looks good to me. Everything seems to be on par. He's doing, and look, everybody's bitching, new offensive line coach, linebacker coach, DB coach, all of these different coaches, with the exception of the DB coach, all of them coming from Carolina. The head athletic trainer coming from Carolina. I could care less. You know what? All of those guys worked for Ron Rivera. Most of them did when they went 15-1. Okay? When they went 15-1. A lot of these guys were there for that. Hey, sign me up for some of that. I haven't seen 15-1 in Washington. All right? Haven't seen that in a long time. I haven't seen anything remotely close. Hell, I haven't seen 11 wins or more since 1991. Okay? So until we're able to do something similar to what the Panthers just 3 years ago were 11-5. When's the last time we did that? But you guys want to complain? Oh, Kevin O'Connell's not back. What if Kevin didn't want to be here? Put a sock in it. Just let the man do what he was brought here to do. If it doesn't work, then you can start bitching and complaining. And give him 3 years too. Don't start bitching and complaining if we're, 6-10 next year. This is a project. It's not going to happen overnight. Hope you guys know that as well. Because some of you are delusional enough to think that he's just going to come in here and we're 11-5 next year. It'd be great if that happens. The league is set up for things like that to take place. But a lot of things have to happen in our favor, including number one, we got to stay healthy, which is something we haven't done in a long time, which I'm hoping now that we've changed some of the staff and there are different guys in the building, maybe it'll be different this time around. This time next year, we won't be talking about the Redskins with 20 some odd guys on IR. Be nice to just have your guys for the vast majority of the season and see what happens. So I said all of that to say, welcome aboard Scott Turner, okay? Redskins' new offensive coordinator. Welcome aboard, man. Come on in. I know there's a little bit of noise outside. Just come in and shut the door. They'll be quiet eventually, all right? Come on in. Let's talk about Scott Turner, all right? Now, here's a guy, been around football his entire life. His dad is Norv Turner. Now, I told you, there was no way Norv was coming back here. Remember I talked about that last week? There is absolutely no way that Norv was coming back here. But I said, you know what? I know they really like what they've done in Carolina, Norv and Scott. So when Ron was fired, Scott essentially was upped to offensive coordinator because Norv Turner then became the pseudo de facto assistant head coach. The guy that they hired to be the head coach, a guy we all know well here that was our defensive backs coach, he was trash. And so Norv had been a coach before in this league numerous times. So he was kind of overseeing the whole situation. And so he let his son call the plays, and he actually did a pretty good job. And so I'm anxious to see what Scott Turner is able to do. And I'm anxious to see what happens with that whole situation. Like I said, this is a guy that's been around the league, numerous stops. He's a football lifer, a football junkie, and I like the fact that he's young. I like the fact that he's only 37 years old. And really, this is his first opportunity to call plays. And from what Ron saw last season, he was really impressed when he did get a chance to call the offense and do some things. And they did some creative things in Carolina last year. I like this hire because he knows football. Now, we don't know how good of an offensive coordinator he really is. We're gonna find out together. But guess who else doesn't really know what this guy's all about? The rest of the NFL. So I say this: he doesn't have any tendencies on paper right now. There isn't film on this guy, and there aren't tendency breakers that he needs to employ right out of the gate. They're going to need about 5 or 6 weeks of film on this guy to figure out who the hell he is as a coordinator, which bodes well for us. Now, eventually, teams will catch up to what he's doing, and he'll have to make the adjustment. But I'm excited about that opportunity that he's going to get here. If Ron Rivera trusts him, then so do I. This is all a part of trusting the process, all right? Sometimes you got to do it blindly, by faith. Now, if you want to say, look, this organization has screwed me over X amount of times, they don't get the benefit of the doubt of me allowing them to lead me and me follow blindly by faith. I get that. I won't object to that. This organization doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. But in this particular case, and this is a unique set of circumstances, we got a brand new coach that seems to be wielding a little bit of power. He's hiring his guys. And for the first time, the front office is even being shaken up, which means that might even bode well for the amount of power that Rivera has. I like what's going on, and I'm anxious to see where this all goes. And so, love the hirings so far. All right. And again, these are guys he's comfortable with. I want Ron Rivera as comfortable as humanly possible here in Washington. So if that means hiring as many guys as you can that make you feel comfortable, because I want him delegating. I don't want him micromanaging and having to worry about what this side of the football is doing, what this guy's doing, what that guy's doing. I want him to be able to do some everything. I want his hand in a little bit of everything, because that's what head coaches do. All right. They delegate to their coaches, let them do their jobs so they can oversee the entire process. So they can oversee everything. That's what I want Ron Rivera doing. What I don't want him doing is having a guy or two here that he doesn't trust, that he doesn't know, and feels like he's got to do a little bit more to maybe help them because he doesn't really love what they're doing. No, bring in guys that you trust, that you know what they're capable of, so that it makes the transition here to Washington that much easier. And if that means bringing 8 ex-Carolina Panthers assistants, so be it. Bring them on, all right? As long as they're competent at their damn jobs, bring them on board. I have no problems with that. Anyway, so Scott Turner is the new offensive coordinator. What does this mean for Dwayne Haskins? Yeah, it's a little bit of a transition. I don't know what the terminology is going to be, how much different it's going to be. And it may be a little bit of a growing curve for Dwayne Haskins. Here's my thought process, and this is another thing that I like about the hire of Scott Turner. He's not on the cusp of being poached away. Like, Kevin O'Connell was a year or two away from being poached and becoming someone's head coach. All right. Anytime there starts to be a buzz around a guy, you get nervous because you know at some point a head coaching position is going to come calling and they're going to take it. That's why they're here. They're not here to be a long-term offensive coordinator. The job is here for them to use it as a stepping stone to become a head coach in this league. Well, Scott Turner isn't even on anyone's radar right now. This is his first time being an offensive coordinator, and no one's talking about Scott Turner. So there's at least 3 years in it for us. By that time, if he's doing a good job and he is looked upon as a guy that is a potential head coaching candidate, guess what? If he moves on, then Dwayne should be comfortable enough to be able to adjust to whomever they bring in. But if Kevin had stayed here one more year and Dwayne had got comfortable there and then he had to learn a new system, that could have been problematic. But let's say, Dwayne's got to learn a little something here. It's new. This is going to be an important, as Ron Rivera said, this is an important offseason for him. He needs to really hunker down and study. So if they got some new stuff for him, which they will, he needs to study. He needs to be ready. He claims he's a leader. He claims he's ready to take over and be that guy. Well, here's the playbook, buddy. 600 pages. Learn it. It's not going to be that thick. But here it is. Learn it. Learn the terminology. Learn the playbook inside and out so you can tell guys where they should be lining up, where they need to go, and get everybody set up. Here it is. Learn it. And when we show up for OTAs, be ready to rock and roll. And if he does that, if he attacks this playbook aggressively, if he learns the terminology and he's ready to rock and roll, then we're off on the right foot and we're going in the right direction. And maybe he'll be able to really command this thing. Maybe next year. Maybe this year he'll be, good with it, but not great. And by next year, he's ready to really shred it, the rest of the league. And then the year after that, he's super comfortable to the point where he doesn't need to look at his wristband or any of that. He can just call the play, knows where everybody's supposed to be, and then he can just go out and play ball. And then if they come and get Scott Turner, snatch him up, Dwayne should be comfortable enough in year 5 by then, all right? He should be comfortable enough to make the adjustment to whomever comes in and whatever they're trying to employ. He should be able to adjust and be able to go out and execute. He'll be a veteran in this league at that point, and he should be able to make the adjustment seamlessly. So I don't have a problem with it. I like that he's young. I like that there isn't a lot of film out there about what he's able to do, but I do know this. He is a football lifer. His dad is a football lifer. He's been around football since the day he was born. So I know that this guy is going to come in here and want to prove himself. He wants to come out from under his dad's shadow. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I like it. I like it a lot. So, all of that stuff, I'm putting it to bed. I like the move, and I don't have a problem with the Redskins becoming the Redskin Panthers or the Washington Panthers or the Carolina Redskins, whatever the hell you want to call them. Call them what you want. I just know that Ron Rivera is bringing in guys that he trusts, and I don't have a problem with it because the last time I checked, Ike Hilliard was a part of a 3-13 staff. All right. Kevin O'Connell was a part of a 3-13 staff. Alex Santos was a part of a 3-13 staff. All right. And anybody else you want to name, part of a 3-13 staff. Eric Schaefer, part of a 3-13 staff. So whatever Rivera wants to do, knock yourself out. Anyway, I saw a super chat, so I do want to get to that. And it's from Bruce Nelson. He says, I'm a Panther fan. Ron will make the Skins relevant. I love hearing that from ex-Panthers players, ex-Panthers fans. I love the fact that I haven't heard one thing about Ron Rivera that has been negative this entire time. Not one. I've heard some of the things that he doesn't do all that great, but he's overcompensated for some of his shortcomings. That's what you do. You're not going to be great at everything, but you got to be able to minimize your weaknesses and maximize your strengths. Sounds like he's done that very well throughout his career as a coach, whether it be a coordinator or a head coach in this league. And I've heard nothing but great things from him, from the fans and from the players alike. And that makes me feel really good about the hire. And you know what else made me feel really good? I read an article a couple of days ago that was written about the Giants GM Dave Gettleman. You know how I feel about Dave Gettleman. And hell, the Giants fans feel the same exact way. Anyway, he pretty much said that he made a mistake. That they made a mistake by retaining Pat Shurmur for the entire season and not getting rid of him sooner so that they could get in on Ron Rivera faster. He thought, remember, Dave Gettleman was the GM in Carolina while Ron Rivera was the head coach. So there is a overlap there. They know each other. So there was some synchronicity there. So he would have loved, and that's why I thought that Ron was going to go somewhere else, because there were other opportunities out there that I felt like were going to come available. And a guy like Dave Gettleman, if he was comfortable with Gettleman, he was going to have a chance to go right there, work with Gettleman in New York, and that was a guy he was familiar with. So I thought that was a potential landing destination for him. And Gettleman said, we dropped the ball. We should have been in on Ron Rivera a lot sooner. The Redskins pretty much beat us to the punch. They got rid of their guy sooner, so they were able to talk to Rivera sooner. And by the time we got rid of Pat Shurmur, they had all but locked up Ron Rivera, and it was too late. That's music to my damn ears. We got a guy that other teams wanted, but they just weren't fast enough. Look, we don't do many things right. And I told you, I'm not here to pat Daniel Snyder on the back. All right, when he fired Bruce Allen and Jay Gruden and reshaped this organization this offseason, I wasn't here to pat him on the back. One caller called in and said, we need to give Daniel Snyder credit. To hell with that. I'm not giving Daniel Snyder credit for shit. He should have fired Bruce Allen's ass 3-4 years ago. He should have fired Jay last year. At minimum, Jay should have been fired after last season. All right, last year I told you everybody needed to go. House needed to be clean. You know, I gave him a shred of credit for getting rid of Larry Hess. I gave him a shred of credit for that because Larry was his boy. And it took a lot for him to realize the culture needed to change, and Larry was a part of a culture that was negative here. And so in order to change the culture, he had to carry his ass too. But the one thing I will give Daniel Snyder credit for is him moving fast. You know what? I probably should give that credit to Joe and bypass Dan's ass, because remember, I told you before I even found out that this was 100% true, I said, I bet you Joe Gibbs is the point man on this. And what did we find out 48 hours, 24 hours after Ron Rivera was hired? Hell, what did we find out during the press conference when Rivera spoke? That Joe Gibbs was the goddamn point man on this. Joe Gibbs lives in Charlotte. Joe Gibbs' NASCAR franchise is based out of Charlotte. I told you. I was just connecting dots. I was just drawing inferences. And we know that Dan leans heavily on Joe Gibbs. And I said, I bet you Joe's the point man on this. Joe respects Rivera, saw what he did for the Panthers, feels like he can do it here. And what did we find out? Joe respects Ron Rivera, knew what he was about, and told Daniel Snyder, that's the guy you need to go get. And that's why Daniel Snyder picked up the phone, called up Ron Rivera's representative, and said, hey, man, what is it going to take for us to get him here? They started talking, and next thing you know, Ron Rivera was signing on the dotted line. I will give Daniel Snyder a shred of credit, but more of it needs to go to Joe Gibbs. But in any event, the Redskins as a whole moved quickly. And that was the key to getting Ron Rivera. So I will give them credit for that. Once again, Bruce Nelson, thank you for the super chat. And I'm glad to hear that Ron Rivera will make the Redskins relevant. Time will tell if he will or not. But I love hearing that from fans and players alike. I'm going to read a couple comments and then we'll get the hell out of here. I don't want to stay too much longer. Let me say this to you guys. We will do, got a couple more super chats. We will do a live show, open up phone lines on Thursday. I think that's the most appropriate day to do that. So be on the lookout for that. John Saluda says, appreciate the video, Louis. Keep it up. Hashtag HTTR. Come on now, John. You know I'm going to continue to hold it down for you guys out there. And I appreciate you, John. You stay blessing me with super chats. So thank you so much for the continued support. And thank you for the super chat, John Saluda. Shake Money says, who's the most hated rival for you? Obviously, for me, it's the Dallas Cowboys. But, you know, the rivalries are only what you make it. We haven't been competitive enough of late. But it'll never change. It'll never die. I'm always going to hate the Redskins, the Cowboys the most. But, you know, there's a pecking order in how I hate these teams. I have the least amount of disdain for the Giants. I don't know why. I don't. I guess Giants fans aren't ornery. They aren't disrespectful. And the Giants are the Giants. I hate the Maras, or hate's a strong word. I don't hate anybody. I strongly dislike the Maras. They were the reason we incurred that penalty, that salary cap penalty of 2011, I believe it was. Or no, it was 2013, because they wouldn't have made the Robert Griffin III trade in 2012 if they would have known we were going to incur the salary cap penalty in 2013. So I dislike the Maras very strongly. They're some assholes, but I don't hate the Giants fan base, and the Giants usually aren't that disrespectful themselves. So it goes Cowboys, Eagles, and then Giants. And the Giants are like a distant third. I want to beat them just like I want to beat the other teams in the division, don't get me wrong, but I would much rather beat Dallas or Philly than the New York Giants. So that's how that goes. Anyway, let's get to a few comments, and then we'll get out of here. Let's see. We got JP says, I hope we have the best pass rush in the league next year with Del Rio running the defense and Chase Young joining the team in a few months. Let's just hope the Redskins draft Chase Young. There's so much time between now and the draft. It's not even funny. Things could develop. I mean, if a team comes with this blockbuster deal, will the Redskins be able to turn it down? Rivera may feel like, look, I already got a guy that we feel like is a stud on the edge already. And so we're good with Montez Sweat. Love Ryan Kerrigan. Think that Ryan Anderson is starting to come into his own. You never know what they're thinking out there. I want them to just take Chase Young. I don't know if there are enough first-round picks you could give me to get me to come off of taking Young. But, if somebody's like, yo, I really, really want Tua at 2. And I don't know if I'll be able to get him at 3. Or I really want Chase Young at 2. What is it going to take for you to move off of that? And somebody comes with a ridiculous package. They're going to listen, but I would just prefer Chase Young, personally, myself. But we'll see. We'll see. Jay Steele says, going in tonight. I just had to set the record straight. I saw too much bitching and complaining on Twitter by Redskins fans. And I'm like, dude, we haven't been a winning outfit. What are you complaining about? It'd be one thing if we just came off of a 10-6 season and we had all these guys that have been impressive for us, or let's say we came off of a 6-10 season, but the previous 3 years, we were 9-7, 9-7, and the year before that, 11-5, and all of those guys that did tremendous jobs during that stretch. And this is the first time that they didn't get it done, and the coach got fired, and, you feel like this staff needs to be retained. Okay, I listen. But we've been horrible. We haven't been a good organization. We were 3-13 last year. What are you complaining about? Daddy Smoke Yam says, we asked for a clean house, then get mad when our dishes get broken and get thrown away. Again, my thing is, you can't ask for a clean house, and then when some of the guys that make it dirty are being asked to leave, you want to get upset. I don't understand that. And look, even if those guys were doing admirable jobs, they're still dirty. They still have the stench of Bruce Allen on them. They still have the stench of 3-13 on them. I smell it. It stinks. If that's in fact the case, and you want a clean house, Febreze isn't going to change that. They got to go. You got to take that outside. Okay? You leave it in the house and you just spray Febreze on it. Now it smells like funky Febreze in here. Get rid of the trash. And I'm not saying that those guys were trash, but get rid of the funkiness and let's clean it up. Let's clean it up. Fred Watson Jr. says, preach. Preach, Louis T. Preach. Let's see. Derek B says, the offense was dead last in 2019. It's impossible for Turner to do any worse. Jay's offense at best was only good between the 20s and had no running game. Again, I'm not gonna put the dead last ranked offense on Kevin O'Connell. All right, a lot of that had to do with the restrictions that were put on him. But at the end of the day, as you mentioned, it still wasn't a good offense. We still went a month and a half without scoring a touchdown. Like, who's doing that? And again, I don't know how much of that was Kevin O'Connell. Doesn't matter. He was a part of that. All right. I don't have a problem with a change being made. That's all I'm saying. Sure, I would like Dwayne to not have to go through an offensive coordinator change and to hear the same voice again next season. But if that's not in the cards, so be it. He'll adjust. John Perez says, my expectations are 10 or 11 wins in the NFC title and a wild card berth. Well, you can't win the division and have a wild card berth at the same time. You can do one or the other. All right. If you win the division, you're not a wild card. But again, I told you they're going to be delusional fans that are expecting. You hear him? He's expecting that. That's asinine. All right. Taper your expectations. Now, you could hope for that. Hope and expect are two different words, two different meanings, two totally different things. I'm hoping for 10 or 11 wins in a division crown or a wild card. That sounds great. But you know what I'm expecting? 7-9, 8-8. And you know what? That wouldn't be all that damn bad. Now, you got to see how that happens. You know, if you start off 8-3 and you finish up 8-8, that's a problem. Okay? But if we start off the season, 4-6 and we finish up 8-8, you got to feel good about that. So I'm thinking more along the lines of, 7-9, 8-8. But again, we'll see what happens. We don't play the schedule game. You know what I mean? Like, we do this every year. Who thought Buffalo was going to be any good? I didn't. I didn't think they were going to damn near win the AFC East this year. We thought that the Jets were going to be an easy win. Might have been the most disappointing game all season. Got our asses whooped by the New York Jets. So don't play the schedule game because you don't know who's going to be who when we play them. So don't do that. Anyway, JP says, are you open to the Skins bringing in AJ Green? If he's fully healthy from his injury, we could definitely use another weapon for Haskins in addition to a pair of tight ends. Now, I wouldn't have a problem with AJ Green coming in here, but I'm going to tell you right now, AJ Green isn't looking to go from Cincinnati to Washington. He wants to win. And I can tell you this much, he's probably not going to view Washington as a destination that's going to win right away. AJ Green is looking to go somewhere where a team was in the postseason last year and they're right on the cusp, and a guy like AJ Green being added to the mix is going to push them over the top. I can tell you right now, AJ Green has made plenty of money in his career. Yes, he'd like to make much more of it on his way out. But you know what else he wants to probably do more so than making a ton of money? Win. And I'm pretty sure that could be a nice balance for him where he can win and make a bunch of money. I don't think he views here as one of those places. That's just my guess. Reese says, are you okay with this, Lou? Kevin O'Connell was your guy. Just the way the cookie crumbles, NFL coaching is a big boys club. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with this. I liked Kevin O'Connell. I wanted to see what he had in store for, Dwayne Haskins moving forward. I never felt like we got a full look at what he was capable of. But again, he was a part of 3-13. All right. I like Kevin O'Connell. I didn't love KOC. You know what I mean? So I loved Sean McVay. That's who I loved. That's who I wanted the Redskins to find a way to keep. I loved Kyle Shanahan. That's who I loved. Those are the guys that I wanted the Redskins organization to find a way to keep. Now, in the case of Kyle, they could have. In the case of Sean, there was no way unless you were going to get rid of Jay. And at the time, and let me say this now, I'm not one to have revisionist history. I fully understand what my thought process and train of thought was when Sean McVay got poached. I wanted Jay to stay. I wasn't ready. I wasn't done with Jay Gruden at that time. I was like, damn, quite a quandary to be in. Love Sean McVay. Think he's a future head coach in this league. I'm not done with Jay Gruden. He was just coming off of an 8-7-1 season. Thought he still had good football in him. 2 straight back-to-back winning seasons. And if Dustin Hopkins doesn't miss a chip shot field goal over in London versus Cincinnati, we make the playoffs. If we don't stink it up versus the Giants, any win in that game, the Detroit game, the debacle in Detroit where Matt Jones fumbles twice in that game, and Dustin Hopkins misses a field goal, and we lose that game on a Matthew Stafford 40-second, 2-minute drive touchdown. Any of those games, we win one more game that year, we make the playoffs. I wasn't done with Jay Gruden then. But those are guys that I wanted to stay. I was indifferent on Kevin O'Connell. Would have loved to have had him back, but if he wasn't back, I'm not. It's not something that I'm going to be that upset about. It's not spilt milk for me. You know what I mean? And if it is spilt milk, guess what? I'm willing to clean it up and keep on moving with my day. Syndico says, loyal to a fault. Norv Turner's son, a first-time offensive coordinator, and a training staff that let Cam play hurt several times. Good luck. I get it. It's not your old staff, but it's not a good look. Shaking my head. Well, that's a different point of view. Let me ask you this. If a player tells you he can go and he wants to go and you feel like he can go, what are you going to do? I mean, we've seen this before. Cam Newton's not the first player that's played with an injury that probably shouldn't have played, but played nonetheless because he wanted to go. A lot of times as a organization, you have to keep players from themselves. You have to protect them from themselves. And they didn't do a good job of that with Cam Newton. I watched All or Nothing. I saw that Cam Newton could barely raise his arm, let alone go out and play a game on Sunday. But he wanted to play. All right. He had quarterbacked the team to a 6-2 record. He felt confident that he gave them the best chance to win. The organization felt like he gave them the best chance to win. And the medical staff said, hey, he's good enough to go. So he went. Maybe it wasn't the right decision. In hindsight, it looks like it wasn't the right decision. And look, I will never kill a coach for being loyal to a fault. I think there's a happy medium somewhere. If a guy has been good for you for years, there's something to be said about making sure that you go to bat for that guy. But at the same time, to your point, you can be loyal to a fault. There is the opposite end of the spectrum, which is the New England Patriots, the Patriot way, way to go about it, which is, hey, we'll get rid of a guy 2 years before he's actually out of his prime. He's done a lot of shit for us, helped us win Super Bowls. Let's get rid of him before he's done. And then there's the Pittsburgh Steelers way to go about it, where you're loyal to a fault and you allow guys to hang on maybe a year or two too long. I think there's a balance that you got to find, and maybe he's learned from his time in Carolina, and he will maybe execute a little bit better here in Washington. That's the hope. Let's see. Reese says, are you going to make a coaching carousel video? I am. Going to do that later on tonight. I talked about that on Twitter. And I said that I'm going to do a video live later on tonight. So we're going to do that as well. But I got a super chat, so I'm going to go ahead and get to that here and read that. It's from Ice Mule. He says, thanks. The baby Jesus KOC is not the offensive coordinator. Look, I was a huge fan of him being the offensive coordinator. And he's not here. Honestly, I'm not going to get bent out of shape over it. I want Ron Rivera to have full control over who's here and who's not here. And again, keep this in mind. Think of, and I think a lot of you aren't looking at it from this perspective. Maybe Kevin O'Connell didn't want to be here. Okay? Consider that. Consider that. Maybe KOC didn't want to be here. Because I think if he wanted to be here, and Rivera interviewed him and felt like, hey, this guy's got a little bit of continuity with Dwayne Haskins. They did some good things in the final few games of the season. Let's continue that. What's holding this up from happening? All right. If he wasn't feeling Kevin O'Connell, he would have hired Scott Turner last week. He would have hired Scott Turner. When he made this mass exodus of hires, when he made when there was this mass exodus from Redskins Park of all the old staff members, and there was this influx of new guys that he brought in, the offensive line coach, the linebackers coach, wide receiver coach, when he's bringing all these guys in, the new head athletic trainer, and he's bringing all these dudes in, he would have just brought in Scott Turner at that moment too. Why didn't he do it? Because I think he wanted Kevin O'Connell, and I think Kevin O'Connell was kind of waiting to see what coach dominoes would fall. All right? So he can make a decision on whether he'd go and jump on somebody else's staff or he'd stay here. And I think he feels confident that there's other opportunities out there laying in the weeds for him. And he's going to go and seize those opportunities. I think it was more of KOC not wanting to be here than it was Ron Rivera not wanting KOC to be here. Antoine Davis, thank you for the super chat. Once again, Ice Mule, thank you for the super chat. Antoine Davis says, we need to make some drastic moves. I think these moves have been drastic. This offseason, everything we've done pretty much been drastic. I love it. You know, when you're 3-13 and you've been a bottom feeding team for the last, 4 or 5 years, and your organization is going in the wrong direction. You're the laughing stock of the league. Everyone's pointing and laughing and saying how your place is the worst place of employment in the league. Changes need to be made. So you're right about that, Antoine Davis. Drastic moves needed to be made, and they have been made this offseason. So that has been good to this point. Thank you again, guys. Ice Mule, Antoine Davis, and everyone else that has sent super chat, Shake Money, John Saluter, and the earlier super chat from, if it'll let me go that high. Can't go back that high. Anyway, appreciate all the super chats. So I'm going to stop right there. All right, we've been going here for a long time. Any other questions that you have, save them for Thursday night. I'll actually be on another channel here shortly. My man Tones, all right, Protect Sports 428, guy that I always promote, having a Redskins roundtable discussion. I don't know all who's going to be on the show, but I know I'm up there, and I think he did say Ed Oliver was going to be on the show. I think. Don't quote me on that. So I don't know if it's going to be live. I don't know how he's doing it, but I am doing that. We are recording it tomorrow. We'll see how that goes, and we'll do our own live show here on Thursday. So be sure to lock that in. Let's set it for 8 o'clock. If anything changes in terms of the time, I'll let you know. But right now, think Thursday, 8 p.m. as a great time for us to jump into our live Redskins report. And let's see if anything else transpires between then and now. We'll talk about the Redskins deciding to push their GM search off until after the draft. We'll talk about the report that came out that the Redskins were close to hiring the ex-Texans GM Rick Smith before they hired Ron Rivera, and all of that good stuff. There's so many things that have come out that we haven't tackled, but we'll save it for Thursday, okay? I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. I thank you guys so much for all the super chats, for all of the support, all of the comments, and I look forward to chopping it up with you guys in the near future. Like I said at the top of the show, I'll repeat it once more on the way out. RELAX. Relax. Let Ron do what he feels like he needs to do. All right? And in the meantime, like this video, subscribe to the Louis T Network if you haven't already done so. Check out the Louis T Network podcast. New episode coming Friday, but the last episode is currently up on the channel. So check that out, episode 67. And if you can donate via PayPal. All right, down in the description is the link to that. There is also Cash App, and I thank you guys. I've got a couple of new Patreon subscribers. Thank you for that donation. I got a PayPal donation. Thank you guys for that. And I also got a Cash App donation. So thank you guys for that as well. Keep them coming. The Cash App is $ Louis T Network. So thank you guys for your donations. I can't tell you guys how much that means to me continuing to be able to put this product out for you guys to enjoy. So thank you so much. In any event, I'm out of here. I'm glad to the side. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. We'll reconvene on Thursday, and we'll talk about everything under the sun pertaining to this football team. And for those of you who are just football fans like myself, I'll be back a little bit later to talk about some of the hires, including the Panthers goddamn losing their damn minds, going and giving Matt Rule the entire world. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And the Giants made a hire. So that's some family business that you should be concerned with. We'll talk about all of that and then some a little bit later on as the coaching carousel continues to spin round and round. Now, only one coaching vacancy exists in Cleveland. We'll see what they decide to do with that. But in the meantime, I'm your man, Louis T. See you guys next time.
Louis T.